Hey everybody, Pastor Bo Wagner. How are you doing? It is time to get the second part of the reading of Zak Blue and the Great Space Chase Falcon Wing underway. I apologize for being so late tonight. As I explained last night, after a long hiatus, part 3 is in the works. The manuscript is done. We're in the editing process. Within a month, it should be in print. I apologize for taking so long and being so late, but because it's been so late, I'm going to read through part 1 and part 2 of the series, Falcon Wing and Enter the Maelstrom, and that way you'll kind of be caught up before part 3 is released. So we finished up chapters 1 and 2 yesterday. Let me find my spot in chapter 3, and we'll read you at least one chapter tonight. Here we go, chapter 3. At Pet headquarters, General Loopgeister was pacing like a caged lion.
Why hasn't he been caught yet?
He will be soon, General, I assure you. The snifferbots have tracked his scent right to the Ballindrome, just as you suspected. Him and his fish-faced friend. Loopgeister just stared at the small, whiny, groveling underling in his report. He was angry, coldly, furiously angry. Zak Blue was making things inefficient, and his superiors did not like it when things were inefficient. And when they were unhappy, they made him unhappy. He did not like being unhappy.
Double the pursuit. Re-verify every ship is guarded. Send officers to every relative, friend, enemy, and pet the boy has ever had.
Simperson groveled again and said with an even more nasally tone than before,
Yes, my leader. Consider almost all of it done. Almost? Almost?
He has no family, sir. His parents both died 10 years ago. The boy grew up in village care.
I don't care if he's little orphan Annie reincarnated. He will get no sympathy from me. Find him, you worthless fool!
Simperson nearly tripped all over himself, running from the room to fulfill the order, angry over being verbally abused yet again. As he rushed down the hallway, he reflected on the situation. A groveling underling he may be, but he was surely smarter than everyone thought. He was, in fact, more in tune with this situation than all of his superiors, including General Loopgeister. They will not catch him, he muttered to himself. The boy is as daring as Desaad himself and far more intelligent. Still, what can he do? Every ship is guarded by dozens of soldiers. He can never get off this planet. Suddenly he stopped. There was a ship. One ship that would not be guarded at all. The little man turned to rush back into the control center, but immediately stopped. Fool? How dare the general call him a fool yet again in front of everyone? Yet this was a common occurrence. Everyone in the upper echelons of Pet was smug, condescending, and abrasive, and Simperson tended to forever be the butt of their jokes and their vitriol. Why then should he betray Zak Blue to them? Their paths had crossed only once, 3 years ago at a character reestablishment class. Terry, Zak had said as he put both hands on the little man's shoulders, you're a better man than these people think you are. Simperson never forgot that. In a world obsessed with perfection and yet seemingly incapable of realizing just how far short they were falling, one supposedly bad apple had said the only kind thing to him he had ever remembered from anyone. And so the little man turned back around and walked calmly down the corridor. He would do as he was told, nothing less, but nothing more. Back in the Ballindrome, Zak and Dargon were now just outside the hangar on level 5. The snifferbots were closing in, they knew that. But they also knew they had at least a couple more minutes. If they were being chased by real live dogs, they would doubtless be caught by now. But, as so often was the case, modern man was too clever by half. The snifferbots had been programmed not just to smell, but also to calculate probabilities based on the information given them. And since that information doubtless included the fact that no one could fly the Falcon Wing, Zak and Dargon were being blessed by a very precious, albeit very small, window of opportunity. There was no shooting, no mad dash to the ship. The shooting and the mad dash would doubtless begin once the Falcon Wing roared to life. For the time being, after taking a couple of deep breaths to calm themselves, Zak and Dargon simply stepped out into the open and casually walked toward the prize. No hurrying, no sudden or erratic movements. The anomaly detectors would have immediately alerted to such things. 30 feet, 20, 10, 5. A step onto the gangplank, then another, then another. When their feet cleared the opening, everything changed. Zak bolted for the cockpit, Dargon for the shield generator. 7 seconds later, the engines roared to life. 1 second after that, the inner space shield enveloped the Falcon Wing unseen, yet the only thing that would stand between them and death. 2 seconds after that, the first blaster bolts hit the shield and were harmlessly absorbed, though they now began to come by the dozens as soldiers rushed toward the ship. 3 seconds after that, the ship rose 20 feet, turned upward at a 70-degree angle, and shot like a bullet out of a gun through the hangar opening. 4 seconds later, an alarm sounded in the control room. Then 2 seconds of hesitation by a man at a monitor who could not believe what he was seeing. That 2-second delay would prove to be the difference between life and death. 47 seconds would have been the window to beat. But anyone good at math can see that between the 4 seconds to the alarm and the 2 seconds of a delay before the man in the control room slapped the button to close the exo shield, they now had a generous 53 seconds to get through. It was enough by exactly 1 second. As the exo shield slammed shut behind them, Zak literally dove out of the cockpit, and Darragon vaulted in to take his place, shouting unintelligibly. Zak ran like never before, nearly diving headfirst into the warp drive chamber. Across the ship's communication channel, Zak could hear Darragon screaming for him to hurry. The enforcement cruisers were closing in. Frantically, Zak ripped the portable slide drive out of his flight pack. Not even bothering to gently remove the cover, he simply yanked the top off the warp drive housing. Back home in his simulator, he'd been able to install the slide drive on absolutely any vessel in 3 minutes or less. He hoped he could do the same in reality. Suddenly the ship lurched and rocked, and Zak knew they were being fired on. That was not good. Not good at all. Darragon's frantic, high-pitched warbles confirmed his fear. The enforcement cruisers were apparently much faster than they expected. His fingers flew. There was no thought. There was no time for it. There was only clawing instinct as he worked faster than he'd ever imagined possible. 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Done. Zak rushed back for the cockpit. Darragon vaulted into the co-pilot seat. Zak vaulted into the pilot seat. Falcon Wing, a mechanical voice came across the comm. Prepare to be taken. Not today, Zak whispered in anger. Not ever. And with a slap of the blue button to his right, the Falcon Wing was, in less than a second, more than 7 million miles away. That's Chapter 3 of Zak Blue and the Great Space Chase, Falcon Wing. We'll try to get another chapter or two in tomorrow night. See you then.